Hey there, Kingdom Hearts fans. Welcome back to Dream Drop Long Distance, a podcast about two best friends finally getting to play the game they've actually wanted to play for about a year now. My name is Mitchell Orsino, and as always, I am joined by my co-host and very good friend, Kyle Bradshaw. What's up, Kyle?
Man, it has been an interesting week outside of work, but God, I am so excited to jump into the game. Like, Kingdom Hearts is such a bastion of joy for me.
Yeah, man, and Kingdom Hearts 2, we've been looking forward to this one for a while, and now I feel like we're finally just starting to get into some of the more interesting bits. But the last time we were here, I believe we ended on a scene where Sora had just gotten his new kind of magical wardrobe from the Three Good Fairies.
And then hopped out into the gummy ship.
Did he flew off into his little gummy, his new version of the gummy ship, because we do have a brand new play style for it, which I think is a lot more fun than the one from Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah, but we'll get there. We're not quite there yet.
No.
But first up, though, we were actually just given the freedom to explore the world map or galaxy map or whatever you want to call it. Where we have our choice of worlds, but at this point, there's really only Twilight Town, which they won't let you land at, and a familiar world, Hollow Bastion.
Yeah.
What we're introduced to here is that each of the worlds has something of a cold open now, where there's a little cutscene that plays out before you take control of Sora and the gang.
Yeah, it's actually it's giving a lot more to the characters in this game, which is a lot of fun, because in here we see we're in a kind of like a giant tower that Pete, our villain that we've met just previously, is slowly opening a door, and he's kind of calling for Maleficent, and he sees that she's not there, and he's like, oh man, how am I supposed to do and get everything done if she's not really around?
Can we talk about this for a second?
Yeah.
This man, I don't understand how he didn't hear about Maleficent's demise. It happened a year ago. Sora has been asleep for a year, and this is the first that Pete is hearing of it. Is he just that loyal that he can keep running and gunning and taking care of the Heartless armies and all that by himself without needing to check in with Maleficent for a year?
I don't know, because, they originally, like, Goofy even mentioned that King Mickey had imprisoned him in a different dimension. So we don't know exactly how long he's been out. Or, maybe he was doing this prior to Sora falling asleep. I don't know. I don't feel like they do a very good job of giving a timeline on when Pete was working for Maleficent. He obviously he's kind of like her second-hand man, or right-hand man, I guess, however you want to phrase that. And he's upset that she's not here, because now he's just like, whose orders do I follow? But then he hears this caw, like a bird call, and he looks back, and we see Maleficent's crow just kind of like giving him this look. And it's hilarious because he knows immediately what happened and just starts chuckling maniacally.
Yeah, he knows that she must be alive if that crow is still here. It's interesting that she's not here, though, because she definitely is alive. We just saw her not too long ago threatening the Three Good Fairies.
Yeah, I don't really know what... I was kind of expecting her to pop up as well, because we already know she can teleport. Like, we've seen her jump around, almost kind of like the organization members do. And
like Riku did in the first game.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I don't know why they kind of left her out of this part. Maybe she just sent him along as like, hey, I'm handling things. You go tell Pete and we'll meet up later kind of thing.
I guess so. Yeah, that could make sense. Kind of letting the crow be her envoy.
Kind of. But yeah, so like you said, we wind up back in Hollow Bastion, but the gang shows up. But who's the first person that we see, Kyle?
I don't remember who the first person we saw was. I do know that it looks different. It's definitely not the same place that we left a year ago.
No, they have done quite a lot on this thing, which, I mean, they talk about how this is their, what is the group? The Hollow Bastion Restoration Committee or something like that. It's kind of an adorable name that they've given to themselves. But the first person, so the guys walk in and we hear a very familiar voice kind of egging them on, and Sora looks up and we see Yuffie on top of one of the buildings.
Oh, yeah. And she kind of leads them back over toward the headquarters, right?
Yeah, and probably so far one of my favorite lines of dialogue. Sora asks, have you seen the king and Riku? Because obviously, he's asking everybody at this point. And Yuffie goes, nope. But I had a feeling I'd see you guys again. And the dialogue keeps going. But Sora, it's so hilarious. He starts making fun of Leon's last words to them about even if we don't remember each other, we'll always have each other in our hearts. And they all just start laughing. And I'm like, damn.
No. The delivery is very important here, Mitchell. The precise words are important here because we may never meet again, but we will never forget each other, except for the fact that literally everyone forgot Sora.
every single person. And yeah, I thought that was a very cute moment of Sora just kind of picking on Leon, even though especially when he's not there and he knows Leon can't argue back.
Yeah, he would not do that impression in front of Leon. He'd get decked.
No, he would not.
With a gun blade.
So yeah, Yuffie winds up bringing them. You kind of start walking down through the town, and you're seeing these cranes in the air that look like they're doing a lot of construction, and it definitely is I don't not quite, at least to me, this isn't quite as linear of a town anymore. We're not seeing the Hollow Bastion from Kingdom Hearts 1 as much. The multiple floor levels with kind of dungeon areas in between. This actually feels like it's kind of got like a European village feel to it.
Yeah, this is a very different section of the world. This is probably the first time that Kingdom Hearts has done a good job of showing that a world is more than just one location. Because as we'll get introduced later on, you'll kind of see off in the distance, oh, that's where we were in Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yes.
So we're kind of in a whole different area.
Which is pretty rad that they're kind of giving you a whole different peek and showing you that these worlds were more expansive than we were given previously.
Yeah. There's a lot that's changed here too. There's a lot of familiar faces. Huey, Dewey, and Louie are here, each running shops. Scrooge McDuck, the quote-unquote business typhoon, is here. When I saw, I completely forgot Scrooge was in this, and I laughed so hard when I saw him, and I was like, "What are you in there? What are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, helping out, trying to fund and get this city going." But then he does kind of a cool thing where he says he's trying to invest in an ice cream. And it's the sea salt ice cream that previously we saw that Roxas and his friends were sharing in Twilight Town. Right, which this is actually a side quest, if you can believe it.
Which, that's awesome. I can't wait to do that one. That sounds like a lot of fun.
So, I have a question, though. So, how did all of these people get here?
I mean, I'm assuming all those people probably found their way kind of in the same vein of, how we found out that the Dalmatians' homeworld was destroyed and they somehow got to Hollow Bastion. Even though I know all of those people came from Traverse Town, I'm going to guess some kind of, if they have gummy ship technology and people like Sid and Chip and Dale know how to work it, that they probably have found a way to be able to travel between worlds.
Okay, so now work with me again here. All of the worlds are sealed off from one another. That was a whole big piece of Master Yensid's explanation, right?
Sure.
So now we have to use the Keyblade and find these things so we can unlock new pathways to get to new worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no connection between these worlds. So let's just say that maybe, my theory is that maybe these people were called back to their original planet. So Sid and the gang, because they were originally from Hollow Bastion, they returned to Hollow Bastion. But if that's the case, why didn't the same force that did that and the same force that returned Kairi to the Destiny Islands and rebuilt the Destiny Islands in front of her, why did that not rebuild Hollow Bastion? Why does there need to be a Hollow Bastion Restoration Committee?
I don't know. I have no clue. I mean, I don't know at all.
These are the things I think about while I'm playing. I don't know why.
No, I mean, it's all good, plot points that I don't think they ever really fill in, but I don't know. I think it's fun, and I guess I didn't really think about it that much.
Suspension of disbelief. I respect you.
Yeah, sometimes I just let the story ride. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Whatever. Moving on. At this point, we've got talking ducks running shops in a town created by Final Fantasy characters. So
no less than 5 talking ducks within a square mile.
Oh my God. Okay.
But anyway.
Yeah. But so we keep moving, and Yuffie brings us to this house, kind of in the middle vicinity of everything, and the roof is kind of shaped like a wizard hat, and there's some little flying magical doodads around it. And we walk in, and we are greeted by basically all of our characters and friends that we used to see in Traverse Town.
Almost every Final Fantasy character that we have ever met in the previous game is all right here, right now.
Yeah. And they are pretty stoked to see us.
And a lot of them get voices, or I think most of them had voices before, but Sid has a voice now too, and that weirds me out a little bit because he was only ever text in the first game, and his voice isn't exactly what I pictured, but it's kind of close. I don't know.
I have no idea. I just know. I mean, I love it. It's a fun voice, but yeah, I'm trying to think who all was there. So obviously, Sid is playing on his computer that he has built, and trying to get all that done. Aerith is there. Leon is there. And Yuffie kind of comes in and is just like, hey guys, look who I found.
Yeah, so they kind of all welcome Sora, Donald, and Goofy into the Bastion Restoration Committee as honorary members. And I think Aerith is the one who pulls out this card, right? And I think my favorite part about this is that it kind of looks like a Disneyland ticket. Did you get that vibe?
It is very, very similar, where Aerith is like, oh, we made you this thing. And that actually, funny enough, that actually happens a little bit into it, because Leon, as he gets to talking with everybody, claims that a while back, everyone remembers Sora, Donald, and Goofy all at the same time. For like a year now, they've just not remembered them.
And I mean, it's pretty easy to just go on living your life not remembering somebody. So I can't blame them, but at the same time, it's like the fact that they all remembered at once, that's how Yuffie knew that they were probably going to show up soon.
Yeah, but then Sora is like, well, wait, you forgot about us? And of course, then, they all kind of laugh. But the Final Fantasy crew ask the guys to help them because they're like, we've got this heartless problem. And you can tell the 3, Sora, Donald, and Goofy, are kind of like, well, what kind of problem? And Leon's like, just meet me down the way at the Bailey. I've got something to show you. Right before they can leave, a bearded, kind of sleep robe wearing wizard appears. And we find out the person who runs this house is our old friend Merlin.
I mean, it was pretty obvious just because it's got the same little spiral staircase table in the middle and the bed and the mess of books. You can tell he's definitely lived here for a little bit. But I guess I guess that's not true, because he can just pull all of that out of a box and it just works in 30 seconds. So I don't know.
Exactly. So he didn't really quite fit his vibe 100% just yet, but he shows up, greets the guys, and at that point, Aerith is like, oh, hey, actually, we got you the Bastion Restoration Committee membership cards, which are, like, as Kyle said, kind of these, they look like basically tickets from Disney World, which it is really funny that they've got that kind of there's a castle on it with stars, and it's like purple and blue, I believe.
It just looks adorable, and it kind of reminds me of the old Walt Disney Pictures logo of Cinderella's castle. I don't know. It
definitely harkens back to old school Disney.
But more so than that little ticket, I was very happy to see Merlin, because now we finally have magic, and that is very important to me. I was probably going to lose the upcoming fight if I did not have this magic. Yeah,
Merlin comes in clutch on now, and he gives you, I think, what is the first? It's fire, right?
It's Blizzard.
Okay. I couldn't remember. But so he gives us our first taste of being able to use magic again in the game.
Yeah, they changed it up a little bit too. Blizzard now is, I mean, maybe it'll change a little more when we see it again, but for now, just Blizzard is just like a straightforward shot, kind of shotgun-like thing. Mm-hmm. Really good for single target damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even play Magic too much, but I love using it for a little bit of upfront crowd control. One thing, actually, a question for you. Did you notice, and I don't know if it's because of the difficulty we're playing on, there are quite a lot of chests in these levels.
Oh, no, that's just a change that they made with Kingdom Hearts 2. They put chests everywhere. It has nothing to do with the difficulty we're on.
Man,
I'm thankful for it because of the difficulty we're on. But God, there are a lot of chests.
Yeah, like I think by this point, I already have, I've gotten like 3 AP ups, a defense up, like so many crafting materials. I was kind of like, I kept saying like, are they getting me ready to get my ass kicked for about 2 days playing this game? Because I feel like they're just doomsday prepping me.
Yeah, and they're just kind of filling in the blank spaces in the map too, because they're kind of going for form. Or what is it? Form over function in this particular case, because like these maps look beautiful, but sometimes there's an extra space and it's like, well, let's just throw a chest in there. Or one of our new collectibles, the crown. Those little crowns you can pick up. Yeah.
I think we'll jump into those in a little bit because we still have a lot of story to talk about, but that is a kind of a cool new addition.
Yeah. The only other thing that I want to talk about before we get into the Bailey is that I really appreciate one change that they made with Hollow Bastion, and one thing that they kept the same. They took the original soundtrack and they added a new section to it, like a bridge section, and it works so well. It's like very intense, and then it goes into this beautiful uplifting moment, and I like that a lot. It's the remix of it rather than just using the same or completely replacing it.
I need to go listen to it again because I noticed most of the soundtrack is a little different, but I guess I didn't notice that it had one part in particular.
Oh man, it was the first thing that caught my ears. I was like, oh wow, okay. But anyway, yeah. Cool. So with all of that, we end up going to the Bailey, whatever that is. I had never heard the word Bailey before in my life before playing this game, and I am almost 30 years old, and I still don't know what a Bailey is.
I still, I was kind of in the same boat as you. I think I Googled it, and I still don't even remember what exactly it was. But all I remember is like, oh, we showed up in this room kind of overlooking a cliff with Leon. And you get to talking, and you're like, so what's the problem? And Leon goes, the town has been getting fixed up, and we're doing quite a lot. And he's like, and we can pretty much handle everything except for that. And what do we see, Kyle?
An absolute mob of Heartless. More Heartless than you have ever witnessed in one place, except maybe on the other side of the Door to Darkness. But honestly, like, more Heartless than you can fathom. Somewhere in the thousands, at least.
Easily. So yeah, we see these 3 towers that just scrape the sky. And at the bottom of them, because Kyle said, thousands. Like, there's so many moving around. It just looks like the ground is shifting. And the guys are like, yeah, I bet you can't handle that. And he goes, also, we have those. At which point, Leon kind of points towards the ground, and coming from out of kind of a crack where the center of all the Heartless meets are 2 dusks.
Yeah, so they're having a nobody problem too, which, as we're about to learn in a minute, is a lot worse than Leon's already letting on.
Sora even says, he's like, there's this guy named Pete, but we don't have to worry about him. He's not smart enough to tie his own shoes. He said, what we need to worry about are the nobodies.
And to an extent, Sora's right. If everything was how he thought it was, if his understanding was correct, then he'd be spot on, because Pete leading the Heartless is not going to do much of anything, which is why the world managed to be okay without Sora in it for a year.
Sure.
But he doesn't know the Maleficent's back, so...
Yeah. But Goofy then mentions Organization 13, and basically right as he says it, we hear this just voice out of nowhere go, "You called?"
Oh man, I'm so excited. before we even get to see the Organization 13, though, we have to protect the Bailey, which I Googled. Apparently a Bailey is an outer wall of a castle. You have to protect the gates to keep the army of nobodies from getting into the city, which this was not an easy encounter. Did you have trouble with this one?
I mean, I did it in one. I didn't die. But I didn't find it too bad. Now, I will say one issue that I had was they introduced you to the slightly smaller Heartless that change shape into like shields and spears and swords.
I think those have been in past encounters. I think we just haven't had to fight as many of them as we'd have here.
That might have been what it was, because you get mobbed by them. Like there was a time I remember fighting like 4 at a time, and you'd have the shield ones knocking down some of your attacks, and then you'd get hit by the spear ones. And I was like, oh, that's coordinated. Like that's pretty good.
What's really killer here, you're talking about the samurai ones. Those guys do not play. Those guys killed me. I died 3 times to those guys. They would just slice through me and I was dead. So yeah, I really need more magic in my kit to do better here.
I mean, I bet just having Blizzard didn't really do a whole lot. Like I said, I've built my guy in sort of that defender paladin-y type, so I think I can take a few more hits as of right now. Also, Leon didn't do a very bad job.
Yeah, it ended up being one of those things where I had to just like lock on to one of those samurai and just blast them with Blizzard until they went down.
Yeah, that definitely isolating the big guys first in this one is pretty key, because they also will break that gate down pretty easily if 2 of them hit them for more than about a minute.
Yeah, so you do have to fight close to the gate, which that's a new mechanic that they're introducing here. I want to say new. Like, I think the closest thing we've had to this style of encounter was Wonderland, when we had to take out the castle while dealing with the card soldiers.
Yeah. It's kind of like that protect the point time-based kind of thing. Yeah, I actually forgot about that one.
It was a little bit inverted because we were on the attack in that moment, but it's the same kind of idea. Like, oh, it's not just a fight. There's now a game mechanic on top of that.
Sure.
And I think it's going to become, from what we've played ahead a little bit, this is going to become a recurring thing.
I'm okay with it. Honestly, it kind of introduces you to fighting alongside some of these NPCs. Like this one, you have Leon, and obviously we'll talk about more later. But I think it allows you to flavor some new fighting styles, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely. So with the Bailey gates protected, we step outside once more and find that Organization 13 is here. But there's actually only 6 people that show up here. And I was thinking about why that is. And I remembered that Axel's on the run. Roxas is presumably merged with Sora or something. I don't know. Then Vexen, Larxene, Zexion, Lexius, and Marluxia are dead. So these 6 are the only ones that are left now.
Yeah, but it's funny because right before that, that random voice, probably in one of the more interesting lines that I've heard from an organization member yet, he says, "The Keyblade, a truly marvelous weapon, were it only in more capable hands." Of course, then they all start laughing, and Sora's like, "Show yourself!" And then they all appear. And Sora is like, "Good, now we can settle this." And the person who had said that previously was like, "Oh, what a shame. I thought we could be friends."
Yeah, I don't understand these lines sometimes, but it definitely gives some cool spooky vibes.
Yeah. So, right after that, the rest of the organization kind of takes off, but this one in particular teleports down to the guys and stops them from running after the others. And you find he's got this kind of like West Coast Cali surf bro accent of like, "Oh man, you got that all wrong. You got a wrong impression of us. You think that we're just on the sidelines." At which point, what does Sora tell him? It's amazing.
Sora's line is, "You gonna cry?"
Dude, like, what?
Like, what the hell?
It doesn't even, first of all,
what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. She's like, "You gonna cry?" It's like, what a jerk. But then it's funny because the organization member just completely ignores it. And it's just like, why don't I remind you how tough the crowd you're dealing with is? Which right there, very interesting line that he's like, why don't I remind you? And
Sora picks up on it too and is like, remind me.
But then the guy laughs and says, that's right. He used to give me that same look. Which again, it's like, it's just the way that he's saying it is like, let me remind you. He used to give me that same look. And Sora is just confused. But you think a fight is about to happen. And then the guy just looks at him and goes, be a good boy now. And then he just disappears.
I don't understand. Like, he just stood there with his arms out. He was just T-posing menacingly. I don't understand what the point of any of that was. But other than for him to just waste time and be a nod to everything that happened in Chain of Memories.
That's all I can think it was he was just like, I'm not incredibly powerful, so I'm just going to look menacing long enough for my buddies to get away.
Which, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, sure. But he disappears. But then all of a sudden, we see like a glowing, and Sora pulls out the membership card that Aerith gave us earlier, and it is glowing. And they realize that membership card lets
him into Costco so that he can buy all the supplies that he needs for his new adventure.
No, even better. It opens the gate to the world that Yin Sid had told us about that we were going to have to track down.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, that's cool too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not quite as good as a yearly Costco membership, but it is what it is.
So, but yeah, it unlocks, it serves as our keyhole sequence to replace that experience from the first game. So the item reveals the gateway, and then the Keyblade unlocks it, and then he's like, all right, it's time for us to go. And before you can even get back to a save point, it's right up into the ship and off you go.
Yeah, I think we wind up saying goodbye to Leon. Also, I want to point out that this game does way better with the character animations in between stuff. Like, they really up their game on taking the time to animate these characters more, even in like the smaller dialogue. I love it. I missed it. I missed it so much in Kingdom Hearts 1, and I'm so glad to see it now.
Yeah, I really kind of wish that they had done more when they were remastering Kingdom Hearts 1. Like, they already had to redo everything in a new engine. You're already redoing all the graphics. Can you do a little bit more?
That would have been nice. But that's what it is. But we also get Ansem's report number 7.
Yep, still haven't read that one. The secret Ansem report.
No, yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of thinking we just wait to read all of those kind of like we had done previously.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's probably some value to reading them along the way and picking up little bits, but then you still have to go back and read it all in context, because I know that they give them to you in this order specifically to confuse you and only drip feed little bits of information. But at the same time, let's just read it all at once, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
Before we actually get back to the world map, though, one more little scene plays out where we get to see those same 6 organization members again, and they're kind of just talking amongst themselves in that throne room that we saw. This kind of serves as an opportunity to see their personalities come out, though they're still unrevealed. We can really only differentiate them by voices. I picked up that there's a stuffy old guy. Surfer Bros here. There's an emo guy, or like an edgy emo guy. Somebody with playing cards.
The card guy has kind of like a slightly more like booming voice.
Yeah, and then one guy who's just like super timid, kind of doesn't want to be part of things, but just is like, yeah, you guys can do it. Good luck.
Yeah, but it all kind of plays out where like it seems like the older, the more powerful voices in the room are being like, oh, is this kid really capable of wielding the Keyblade? Like, we need to be like keeping a closer eye on him. We need to be more active and paying attention to what he is doing. And then it's funny because I feel like the softer, either more timid or the more laid back voices they don't seem to be as hard on it. They kind of like the surfer bro and the nerdier, timid voice are kind of just like, yeah, we can jump in if we need to, but maybe he's a good dude, and maybe we don't need to really to push him too hard. So I felt like there was a bit of tension there where the room was a little bit divided in terms of like what the big plan was going to be.
Which is exactly when the presumed leader of the group just kind of steps in and is like, gentlemen, which I guess makes sense because there used to be a woman in all of Organization 13. There was one woman and she's dead now. So gentlemen. And tells them to calm down and sends them on their way to make Sora's journey one to remember.
Yeah, he says, gentlemen, the hero of the Keyblade has embarked on a new adventure. Make sure it is one he will remember. And then they all kind of just start laughing.
And then they all one by one disappear. And we're right back at the gummy ship.
Yeah, so that whole scene was very ominous, for sure. Like, you could tell these guys have been probably playing behind the scenes for quite a while. Especially if they're like, he's embarking on another mission, which means they know about his previous adventure.
I mean, if you think about it, presumably, one of them met Sora along that adventure as we fought, what was his name? We fought a hooded figure in Kingdom Hearts 1, remember?
Oh, true. That is true. I forgot about that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, they've probably been pulling some strings for even longer than we originally thought.
Absolutely. So we're back out at the gummy ship, the world map, and we have two pathways in front of us. And you can actually just go through both of them, though.
Well, I was going to say before we do, I just want to really briefly talk about how much different these gummy ship, so these new gummy ship flight paths are basically, they're mission based. And I feel like it's really fun. They have a lot like really hard, like old school Star Fox vibes.
Oh, most definitely. This is a lot of fun, and I do enjoy it, where I didn't really enjoy it too terribly much in Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah.
But I think I feel like critical mode is affecting the gummy ship battles as well. Have you noticed that?
Oh, I think so. Some of them are actually pretty challenging.
Yeah, like I couldn't finish level 2 on a lot of these, because that's one thing, is that there's ranks that you can get on each mission, and then you can do multiple missions in one particular gateway or pathway, let's say. So there's a lot going on here, and you get different rewards, so you'll start unlocking new gummies and all kinds of other stuff and blueprints and things like that. The blueprint system now is really nice, because now instead of it being, oh, okay, well, I hope you can get all of the blocks that you need to build this. Now it's just, okay, here you go, get in.
Yeah.
Which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah. No, it's cool. That's so rad. I don't know. I think they did a great job. And I always thought Kingdom Hearts 2's was way, way more advanced. And the gameplay was a lot better in that regard. But like you said, so yeah, you do these flight missions. And we are introduced to the fact that we have two possible worlds that we can go to.
So finishing the two gummy missions, we now can talk that we have Land of Dragons in front of us, as well as Beast's Castle. And interestingly, Mitchell and I decided to take different paths. Mitchell decided that he was going to go to the higher level world first. He went to Beast's Castle and had a very bad time, where I went to Land of Dragons and had a smooth journey.
It was interesting. It was I think it'll be fun because we were able to discuss the fact based on our own experiences while we were there. And yeah, going to Beast Castle first, I didn't die very much, but you get pummeled in the early levels because they don't crank it back for you.
No, not at all. That's why you have to like look ahead at the battle level, and I just go in order. I don't take chances with that.
I think I don't even think I looked at the battle level. I think I just was like, ooh, Beast Castle, fun, dive in.
I can believe that. So just to keep things in a traditional order, let's say, rather than the non-traditional order that Mitchell decided to go through. We will say that we dove first into Land of Dragons, even though we will definitely have some different perspectives on the difficulty of this world.
Just say it, even though Mitch screwed it up.
I mean, it's fine. As long as we all finish the same stuff, we can talk about the same things. All right. So off to the Land of Dragons, which by the name alone does not reveal too particularly well where it is we're going. But the Chinese inspired design, or literally Chinese design of the world, tells us that we're going to see Mulan.
Yeah, this is actually a new world that we're introduced to in the Kingdom Hearts series, where the kind of opening icon on the world looks like a giant building or palace, which if you've seen Mulan, you know what that is. And we don't see her at first. What we first see is who appears to be a villain standing amongst a burning village, and he's wearing kind of like an animal pelt outfit. He has a pet falcon that flies down onto his shoulder, and his eyes are like this piercing, kind of snake-like glowing yellow. And as he's standing amongst the ashes, he's just smiling. And this is actually the villain Shan Yu, who is, I guess, was he leader of the Huns in the movie? I think in his...
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
They don't get too far into it in this retelling, but
No. But just to give some clarity on like who we're seeing and introduced to.
From there, though, the camera kind of like moves back a little bit and reveals that Mulan and Mushu are watching this from a distance, helplessly, of course.
Yeah, it looks like Mulan and Mushu have been hiding. Mulan is trying to figure out what to do, and Mushu, in classic Mushu form, just starts yelling like, "Come on, whoop him! Fa Mulan defeats public enemy number one." It's like, good God.
Yeah, the person doing it is doing a good impression, but this is not Eddie Murphy.
No.
Like, they're doing the character very well, but it's not Eddie Murphy.
It's definitely not Eddie Murphy.
They did get Ming-Na Wen for Mulan, though. So we actually have the actual Mulan voice actress here, which is, I appreciate that little detail.
That's really cool. Just a great little insert and like just a grab for them to get to keep it as like classic as they could.
Yeah.
But then Sora, Donald, and Goofy come walking up out of the forest. And to them, all they see, because we don't see Mushu, we see the shadow of Mushu along this big rock face. And to them, they think that this is Mulan being attacked by a Heartless.
Oh, yeah. And this is all a callback to the movie itself, too, because isn't there like a scene where the first time that Mushu reveals himself to her, he uses this shadow trick to appear way larger than he actually is?
Yeah, he kind of like summons himself from the smoke, and then he comes out. And that's like another gag is they run in to try to save her. Mulan then grabs Mushu, and they're all just kind of sitting there looking confused at what is happening. And Goofy goes, "Is that Mushu?" Which, to anybody who played Kingdom Hearts 1 with us, you remember that Mushu was a summon that we originally had. He wasn't a character that we met in the story itself.
Yeah, I think he returned a little bit in Chain of Memories, too, as a summon there. I definitely didn't use him, though, but I kind of remember that.
No, I didn't really use him much either. But when I just have to. Some of the lines in this are just incredible. Goofy goes, "Is that Mushu?" And Mushu goes, "Yeah, you know me. I'm little, lethal, and legendary." I'm like, this is amazing.
Like I said, they're doing a great impression of Mushu. The character is done well. It's just, oh man, I love it.
Yeah, and there are a couple times I will have to give up because some of the lines are just fantastic. So they start talking, and you can tell like they're trying to like introduce themselves, and Mulan is trying to hide who she really is. But funny enough, Goofy is the one to point out and say like, "You're pretending to be a boy, aren't you?" And Sora and Donald kind of look, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're a girl."
I love this. I love these moments where they let Goofy be the voice of wisdom.
It's
just such a strong contrast to his normal character, and I love the times that they do it, especially since they never actually listen to him.
Mm-hmm. No, it's so funny because Mulan's like, oh, I think it's working. And Mushu goes, I don't know, those two would fall for anything. Which, again, amazing. Like this entire level, just great dialogue.
Absolutely. Like anytime that they get a chance to roast Sora, Donald, and Goofy, it's a great time for everybody involved.
It's incredible. But so we get done with that and we move on, and Mulan brings us to the army camp that she is going to try to join the Imperial Army in order to kind of like bring honor to her family. But because you're supposed to be a boy to get in, she is now posing as a man.
Yeah, they actually do a very good job of recapping the story right here if you hadn't seen the movie, or at least enough to, if you've seen the movie, you know where we are right now in the plot line.
Yeah, they definitely did much more fleshing out the storyline in this level than they did in most of the previous ones.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm glad that they're giving the Disney movies a little more justice here. And moving on to another fun story beat from the movie, you get to the base camp for the army, and there you meet 3 soldiers from the army, and they get immediately into a tussle with Sora and Donald, which is just so funny to watch. I wish I could watch this scene again and again. It's so funny.
The fight between them, because it's the contrast of like Donald starts it with the very short soldier, literally because they're calling each other short and pipsqueak. And then Sora jumps in, and yeah, it's incredible. It's one of the silliest fights. And Mulan's trying to break it up, and Sora's like, well, whose side are you on?
And it almost reveals that Ping is not very manly.
Yeah, for anybody wondering, Ping is the name that Mulan is like hiding, calling herself as her male name.
Right.
But then the captain of the Imperial Army shows up, breaks it up. But then we're attacked by Heartless.
Yeah, this was an interesting little bit because it introduced another mechanic in the midst of battle, which I'm open to. It's going to make things interesting. We have a party morale system where if you take too many hits, or if your party members take too many hits, it starts to like deplete this bar, and if that bar falls to 0, you fail, and you can refill it by collecting orbs that the Heartless drop. It's kind of like Struggle.
Yeah, the way they actually kind of described it in the dialogue was that the captain was like, I don't know if you're ready for this, Ping. And Sora's like, no, he's ready. He's totally ready. Then they get into the fight. I think it's that the morale meter is that like, if the morale goes to 0, then that's kind of showing that like maybe Mulan doesn't think that she's worthy.
Or maybe that the captain doesn't believe in Ping and just kicks them out. I don't know. I could see that. That's a good argument.
Yeah, I mean, at least that's how I read it. And I was like, okay, that's kind of a cool idea. And it adds a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not immediacy. Personality to the fight. Yeah, rather than just being a hack and slash, beat 'em up. This is like, no, you have to be paying attention to something. And I thought that was really interesting. But we actually get done fighting, and the captain is like, well, I still don't know if I 100% think Ping is ready. I think he needs to prove himself as a fighter. And he sends us on like these 3 fight quests.
These were fun. I wish we could repeat them because they were really good experience. I would have just grinded them for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Because it would be a really great way to boost up my Valor form experience.
I agree. I thought they were really fun. They had a little bit of character to them. The different map and the environments, the maps were really cool. You get done with them pretty quick. And the captain's like, okay, I think I trust you guys enough. I'm going to send you up this patrol route because I need you to clear it for us to get through the mountain.
Yeah. And you go up the mountain. So you basically do just one more mission, and you bust down some rocks, which is cool. I wish we could do a little more of that from time to time. So we have to like defeat the Heartless in order to bust down the rocks, or you can try and bust down the rocks in the middle of combat. But if you get hit, it gets interrupted, and it's just a whole big thing. Yeah.
Oh, no, one thing I wanted to bring up was also, unlike other previous games, for this level, you are forced to use Mulan in her like ping form as one of your teammates. And they basically kind of dictate at a point when you can switch her out, or like you could switch her between like Donald or Goofy, but you have to have her in your party at this moment. I thought that was really interesting.
Right. Who did you choose as your other party member?
I kept Donald.
Interesting. I would have thought that you would have done the same thing as me, which is to keep Goofy, because you get to keep access to the Valor form, because you have to have Goofy to go to Valor.
It's funny enough, up to this point, I have not used Valor form that much. I know I should be.
Yeah, you gotta, I would say start early and kind of use it more often, just because you need to get experience with it, because it unlocks abilities. Like, because I got it to level 3, which is the highest that it'll let me go right now, I have access to high jump now. As Sora, I have access to high jump.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I need to go do that. But yeah, so you do have to keep Mulan for a bit, and you wind up going up this mountain, and Mushu claims that he has found Shan Yu and wants us to go finish him, and just wants to make Mulan big in the eyes of the army. And I think it's absolutely hilarious, because we wind up in this little mountain village. He's like, I found the big bad villain. And I'm thinking like, oh, is he up the top of the mountain? Are we going to have to like scale a cliff? He's like, no, he's in a cave on the other side of the wall of this village.
Yeah, he's like 10 feet outside the village. He's supposed to be in this cave. Like, what? Huh? Well, I mean, if he's right there, why don't we just rally everybody I don't understand it.
Yeah, I was like, what? But you kind of skip over that nonsense.
Suspension of disbelief is the theme of today's episode, apparently.
Big time. But you go in, there's nobody in there. Donald and Goofy go to walk out, and you can tell Sora and Mulan are kind of like, I don't know about this. And then the earth starts to shake, and Donald and Goofy get locked out by a force field.
Yeah, because apparently Shan Yu can create magical barriers. Go figure. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I never saw that in the movie. And you wind up getting into a fight here where it literally is just you and Mulan. So it's you learning how to fight alongside Mulan. Shut up. Fighting alongside Mulan a bit more accurately. It wasn't that hard. It took a minute, but yeah, you kind of get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that fun of a fight, because once again, you don't have access to your drive form because Donald and Goofy aren't there. But yeah, you get through there, and you get out, only to find that the whole village has been burned down by Shan Yu while you were gone, and the captain is bleeding out nearly, and it's up to Sora, Donald, Goofy, and Ping to go up the mountain and find where Shan Yu went, which I don't understand why Shan Yu went up the mountain if he was already down the mountain and already burned down the village. I don't know why he went back up the mountain, but again, suspension of disbelief. So,
well, I mean,
go up the mountain.
I mean, this to me is literally the only reason they had him go back up the mountain, is because they wanted to call back to the most iconic shot to me in this entire movie, which is Sora, Donald, Goofy, and Ping / Mulan get to the bottom of this ravine, and you see Shan Yu on top of a mountain of snow, and he just lifts his sword, and a horde of Heartless appear behind him, calling back to in the movie when he lifts his sword when they're like, we've got you. And he lifts his sword, and his entire army shows up behind him. And you're like, this is bad.
Yeah, so at this point, we are once again separated from Donald and Goofy and Ping in this case. And it's just Sora fighting by himself in this never-ending sea of Heartless. And you basically have to survive for 1 minute. And along the way, though, they give you a counter to let you know how many Heartless you've been killing along the way. I realize now that this is probably an unfair fight because we did this in the wrong order, so you were a little over-leveled, where I was probably spot-on level. But let's just see anyway. Did you write down how many Heartless you killed in this encounter.
I feel bad about it because I did screw up and I did not write it down.
Oh man.
I know. I'm sorry.
So much for that. That's the one time, Mitchell.
I know. I think I didn't quite understand the counter. I thought it was counting down to how many were left. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't read it as like, I thought I was going to fail because I didn't kill all of them. And so I was like, oh man, like, okay, it's going to make me do it again. Then it went into the next cutscene and I'm like, oh, wait, no, I beat it.
Yeah, all they wanted you to do was survive for a minute. You probably could have fought absolutely nothing for that entire minute and it would have been fine too. But yeah, I got 80. I don't know. How many you got.
I feel like I had more than that because I remember kind of going off on that fight. Yeah,
again, you were a little over leveled and I was a little kind of like on level for it. So
I mean, but cool enough. This was the first time that we're introduced to kind of this new like swarm mechanic.
Yeah. How do you perceive the swarm mechanic? Because to me, it just seems like there's just a lot of enemies that are around, but they're just illusory. You're not actually able to fight them. There aren't that many enemies on the field.
No.
And so they kind of like they kind of slip them into the fight. Like they kind of come from the background into the foreground. And I don't know. It works. And it was definitely a limitation of the PS2. And I'd love to see these kind of scenes redone with what the PS4 and the PS5 can do. But we'll get there.
I agree. I mean, at any given time, I think you were maybe fighting like 7 or 8 at the most. And then the rest of them were kind of just like pixelated additions to the area to make it seem like they were swarming around you. I think it's fun. I think it's kind of a cool. And this fight also introduces you to a lot of the Heartless special attacks where you use Heartless on the other ones to kind of clear out mobs.
Yeah, or get yourself out of that bolt that locks you in place. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, exactly. But yeah, so we wind up getting done with that.
And at that point, Ping decides to do another iconic thing from the movie, which is grab the firework rocket and aim it somewhere unexpected and cause an avalanche to just bring everything down on on Shan Yu and his army. But in this case, it ends a little differently than it does in the movie because all of the heroes kind of walk away from it. But at the same time, Mushu is like, all right, well, it's time to give up, and kind of blabs out loud about Ping being Mulan and not Ping. And the captain hears it, and everything goes wrong from there, and Ping/Mulan is expelled from the army.
Yeah, it was kind of sad because Mulan winds up saving the captain from this avalanche, and Mushu is just walking back to her. It's like, all right, we did a good job. Come on, Mulan, let's get out of here. And he's kind of like, oh, because the captain, of course, is staring right at him. He's like, oh no. And the captain looks at her and is just like, why is he calling you Mulan? And
yeah, so
yeah, it was kind of sad.
I mean, he does the right thing there, which is that, like, you saved my life, and so I'm going to kind of sort of save yours by just letting you go instead of killing you, which is the rightful punishment for the crime that you have done, which is kind of brutal for a Disney game, but all right.
Yeah, I mean, he tells her, he's like, I'm going to just kick you out and let you go because normally faking your way into the army the sentence is death, but I'm not going to do that. And so the rest of the army takes off, and Mulan's like, well, I guess I'm going to head home. And Mushu looks at her and goes, man, your dad is going to be more steam than a dumpling. Dude, it's just so freaking funny.
Oh, God, this is a stupid line, and I love it.
It really is.
So, but then they see that Shan Yu still lives. We can it goes through the story beats. And so you hustle your way to the capital because you just presume that that's where Shan Yu's going.
Sure.
And kind of like along the way, one cool thing that you see is that like the soldiers that are going with the captain, some of them are kind of like walking around jerky, looking like they're extras in the Thriller music video.
Okay, that's a good description.
Yeah, they're just kind of like jerking around. I don't know.
They're kind of zombie-ish. Like they've got they look sick.
Yeah, they're definitely not walking in lockstep. That's for sure. So you get down to the capital, which is now, the gates just open. You can go right to it. I don't know. And at that point, like Chang doesn't. We call him Chang now. We didn't call him Chang earlier. We call him Chang now because he's not the captain anymore to us, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's Chang now. We tell Chang that, like, hey, Shan Yu's coming here. He's going to attack the emperor. And he's like, why should I believe you? And then, before we even have a reason, give him a good reason, the Heartless just kind of reveal themselves.
But real quick, before we go like speed run through this part, because there is a cool thing that by the time we get to here, Mulan has actually taken off her Imperial soldier armor, and now she's just dressed like a woman. Like she's got like almost like a martial artist kind of garb. And we are introduced to what I think is a much more fun companion fighting style. Like Mulan's combination attacks with Sora and Mushu are these like beautifully choreographed, like pyramid of fire going into like combo sword attacks that then lead Mushu into doing this thing called like Dragon Comet, where he shoots a bunch of fireballs into the air and they slam down onto the ground. Like I loved the choreography of the animation of the way that Mulan fights on the later half of this level.
Oh man, I couldn't follow it visually. I was just like, well, I'm pressing buttons and things are dying, so I kind of like it. Yeah, this is a new system that they're introducing, the limit system.
Yeah,
which basically just uses an entire bar of MP and lets you do a bunch of crazy stuff with certain party members.
I love it, mainly because I'm not like a huge magic user, so I was like, oh, outside of curing, I'd rather use it on this.
Absolutely, but at the same time, you do have to choose between curing and using that because of how MP works now.
I know, which is kind of sucks, but you can find a good balance. So we wind up getting done fighting these soldiers, and we get to where the main bad guy has the Emperor at knife point. We're kind of like, let him go, blah blah blah. Shang jumps in, karate chops this dude in the face. And winds up pulling the Emperor into the palace. And we get into this fight, which of course, like you said, I went and played the other level first, so I didn't find this boss was very challenging.
Yeah, no, it wasn't actually. The little things to look out for, though, were the Falcon, because the Falcon is a separate enemy on the field.
Yes.
But other than that, as long as you just kind of, if you take advantage of Mulan's red rocket limit, he goes down. Like this fight is not a challenge. I'm kind of thankful for it.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Did you ever have a reaction command during the Shan Yu fight?
A reaction command during the probably, but I don't remember what it was.
Because there was something that I did. I don't remember, but I remember this moment where Sora and Shan Yu are like locked.
Oh, yeah.
Like their swords are locked together,
and you're pushing back on him.
So cool.
Yes. Oh man.
Yeah, that was a cool moment, man. That like you really felt like, oh yeah, I am a swordsman. This is cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's where the swords clash and you're pressing triangle rapidly to kind of like push back on him. And eventually after you do it enough times, you break his guard and then you get a specialized sword slash on him. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that moment. So,
yeah. But he winds up going down and you're basically introduced to the ending scene from the movie Mulan where the Emperor kind of goes in on her about lying, but then immediately is like, thank you for saving all of China and all of the empire, and winds up bowing down to Mulan, which is a huge moment, and everyone thanking one another. And probably one of the funniest, like two funniest moments in this level are that Mushu lets slip and says, well, now they got to let me go back to being a family guardian. And Goofy goes, I thought you already were. And Mushu's kind of like, And they're like, were you lying to us about being a guardian this entire time?
Yeah, because that was the whole reason that they went along with it, because they were like, oh, we were borrowing a family guardian? I'm so sorry. We didn't know we were borrowing somebody so important. Here, we can repay the favor. It was a lie all along.
That was really funny. But then we wind up finding out that the sword Mulan is given from the Emperor is our gate key for the world.
Once again, we get to see the same sequence that we saw in Hollow Bastion. They don't change it up too terribly much. The sword goes up and reveals the gateway, and Sora unlocks it, and we're on our way.
Yeah. And then right before we leave, we're pinged that we received our first new Keyblade. Well, I guess technically second, because we got our first from getting our Valor form, but our first level-based Keyblade. So this one is called the Hidden Dragon, and its ability is it restores MP relative to the amount of damage you take.
Yeah, it's basically MP Rage, which I am very thankful for as a magic user. I'm very thankful for the extra 1 point of magic that this Keyblade offers. I don't foresee you using it, especially by comparison to having the reduced damage when your health is low. That sounds like you written all over it, but I am all over this Keyblade.
When I read the description, I was like, oh, Kyle's going to use this so much, at least for, the opening of this game until something better comes along.
For sure. I will say, though, that you should try equipping it, because I noticed that the Keyblade has different hit effects, which I imagine is probably true of all Keyblades. There's probably different hit effects for them. Like there's like a fiery, smoky kind of effect whenever you slash at something.
I actually had it equipped for a little bit, but then I got a different one that we'll talk about in a little while that I preferred.
Gee, I wonder which one you're talking about. So, but yeah, I think that is where we should put a cap in it for right now. We've already run a little long.
Yeah.
Thanks for bearing with us, everybody.
Yeah. I think that's quite a bit. We got to see a bunch of old friends, and we also got introduced to quite a few new ones this episode. And after, I think our next up is that we know about as of right now is heading to Beast's Castle,
which I'm so very excited for, but to reconnect with that old friend.
That should be very fun. But until next time, everybody, my name is Mitchell Orsino, and as always, Kyle, thank you for jumping on and doing this with me, man. This has been fun.
I know it really has. So I'm excited to play more and to chat a little bit more with you next week.
Absolutely.
Until then, take care, everybody.
All right, talk to you later. Hey there, Kingdom Hearts fans. Thanks for listening to the episode. Dream Drop Long Distance is hosted by Mitchell Orsino and Kyle Bradshaw, and is produced by Kyle Bradshaw. Our theme music was written and recorded by Alex McLean.